Okay, so hi everyone. Today I'm going to talk about Vue and how it fits into the GraphQL ecosystem and the GraphQL community. I'm also going to talk about Vue CLI, which is something I've been working on this year. So I'm Guillaume. You can find me on Twitter at Acrium. Oh yeah, it's a bit cut. So first, I'm going to talk about Vue CLI and how you can create a Vue project very quickly. Then go over to the Apollo integration, and then talk a little bit about server-side rendering. So first, creating a project with Vue CLI, which is a new tool we released this year. So you can install it with this package at vue/CLI. And it's basically the tool that allows you to create, develop, build, and deploy on anything really, your app. So it's a very flexible and very powerful tool. So it's previously the Vue CLI was just a scaffolding tool to generate new projects, and now it's way more powerful. So how to get started using it? Install the package globally, then use the vue-create command to create the new project. Then you can go into the project and then use the few commands available to you, like serve to start a development server using Webpack, or for example build to create the distribution files. And it's built with a lot of features, like Webpack 4, a latest build, and a lot of things, TypeScript, PWA, a modern mode with a build for modern browsers and a build for legacy browsers, and all the popular testing frameworks. Everything you can see here is built inside Vue CLI, which is great. How do we do this? Because that's a lot of things. So we built a new system which is based on plugins, and it allows you to pick the features you really want and mix them up together. And also, if you forgot to add something, you can add it later. So let's say you forgot to add a jest for unit testing. You can add it after creating the project. You don't have to create a new project and copy the source files over. And also, you can upgrade the features. For example, if jest has a breaking change in the configuration, we can handle this for you in the related Vue CLI plugin. OK, so the plugin API is very powerful. It allows you to generate files, modify the Webpack configuration, register new commands. And we got a lot of community plugins already with only a few months since release. And that's not all, because I've been working on a very specific part of Vue CLI, which is the Vue CLI UI, which is the graphical user interface for Vue CLI, which I'm going to show you a little bit just after that. So how do you use it? You just run a terminal and run this Vue UI command. There is also an Electron app wrapper for this, but by default, you don't need to download Electron to use this. So let's go ahead and check it out. So I'm going to switch over here. So what you see here is the Vue Project Manager, when you can have all the projects you are using with Vue CLI UI at a glance. And we are going to create a new project. Let's say Demo Summit. OK, next. I'm going to pick a few features like Vue router, CSS preprocessors, and config files. Next. And then you can configure parameters. So I'm go ahead and choose TLS. Standard. And we're good. So now it's creating a project. So basically what it does, it's installing Vue CLI plugins. For example, I selected ESLint, so it's installing Vue CLI plugin ESLint, and then running the generators inside those plugins to create new files in your project. So here you go. We are in our new project. This is the dashboard where you can put widgets, like, for example, this very handy network kill widget. Here you got the plugins, the dependencies, configuration screens, like this, for example, with all the Vue-related ESLint rules, and the task. So if I go ahead and run the Webpack task, you get a dashboard with all kind of nice stats, and then you can open the app directly. So you go. I didn't use the terminal at all to create a project and run it, so I think it's pretty cool. OK, going back to the presentation. OK, so now integrating Apollo into this. How do we do that? It's very complicated. Step 1, run this command. There's no other steps. So just run vue-apollo, and it will install Vue CLI plugin Apollo into your project and run the generators to create new files in your project and set everything up for you. So what that does, it's setting up my Vue-apollo integration library for you. It's also giving you built-in GraphQL file support if you want to use that, and also as a built-in Apollo server. So if you want to build a full-stack GraphQL app, you can very easily do that. And it also integrates with Apollo Engine. So let's go back to our demo. So I can, in my plugin view, I can add new plugins with this button. You can also do it with the command I showed you with the terminal. Here you can see we have a very nice search field, and we can search for GraphQL, for example. But I'm going to install it locally. So I'm going to select the Apollo plugin. So after it's finished installing, plugins can present you with prompts, which are inputs, like this. So this plugin is, for example, asking you if you want to install example code into your project. So let's select this. If you want to also generate basic files for your built-in Apollo server, if you want to enable automatic mocking, and if we want to configure engine. So we want to do that. I'm going to open engine here. OK, so let's create a new service and call it, let's say, GraphQL Summit. OK. Then we can have, it's very small. I will copy over the API key. OK, got it. So here we can input the service ID, which is GraphQL Summit. We can also put the API key. Tags are a way to differentiate between different development environments, like development, staging, or even production. So I'm going to create a new dev tag and also directly publish the schema to Engine. So let it finish. This is going to take a little bit more time. So I'm going to switch to the console output for this. So you can see it's installing new dependencies into your project. So that's the thing which is taking a bit of time here. But it also, just before that, ran the generator for the plugin, so like adding new files and modifying your existing files in the project. And also, maybe you noticed I'm using Vue CLI UI to develop Vue CLI UI, which is nice. So I think it's going to finish soon. Let's go back here. Still no terminal. So very soon. By the way, did you ever use the new Vue CLI? Nobody? It's OK. You can try it. So here we got, after the installation is complete, we got a GitHub-like diff view of everything the plugin has done to our project. So it generated a bunch of files and also modified existing files, like the SLIN configuration to integrate with our GraphQL schema. It also created a bunch of server files in the project. And it also modified our entry point to include vue-apollo directly. So we can go ahead and commit that change. So let's say I'm going to commit with @apollo. And now we got Vue plugin, the Vue CLI plugin Apollo installed in our project. So if we go to configuration, we see there's a new screen here, which is provided by the Apollo plugin. So we can configure a few things about the Apollo server. And you also get new tasks. So let's say you want to run the Apollo server. You use this task. Oh, you're OK. OK. Yeah. So first, I need to go to parameters. So you can visually change parameters for the task. And then I can run it again. OK. And you directly get the GraphQL playground ready for you to start using your API right away. You may also have noticed there is a thing here which are called suggestions. So as soon as I installed the plugin, I had this suggestion explaining to you that you can use new configuration, new tasks, and also new widgets. I can make it go away. You can also directly open Engine, and if you are new to Apollo, you may not know about the Engine side of things. So you can just click Continue, and it will open the service on Engine for you. And you can also publish the schema. So it's a tip to let you know you can use this Apollo schema publish task to publish your schema to Apollo Engine. So I'm going to start Webpack again. Open the project in code. OK. And I'm just going to change a file so we get a batch of GraphQL things going on. So when I selected add example code when I installed the plugin, it generated a few files here, like this one, with a lot of queries and some GraphQL files as well. So here I can go to the app. And here we go. We have a GraphQL app with a server. So I can send messages. I can upload files. OK. So that's great. Still no terminal or almost no code. So let's stop this and this. OK. You can also, in the dashboard, add widgets for engine, so you can have a quick glance at what's going on in your API. So I'm going to go ahead and add a few of those. And then you can configure them and select which engine service you want to use, which tag. And let's say last hour, it's fine. And now we got stats from engine directly into inside Vue CLI UI. So I can do the same here. I can change the type, let's say service time. And here I can get her percentage. Nice. We got some stats right into Vue CLI. OK. Going back to the presentation, which is here. Yes. OK. Now a little bit of server-side rendering. So this is the name of the package I created for this. And did you even hear about server-side rendering? Yes? So just before to get started, it's very complicated again. You need to run this command, and that's it. You're done. You have server-side rendering. So a little bit of refresh for those of you that may not know about server-side rendering. So how do we do that? First, we have a client entry, which is for the browser. And inside, we create an app. So we create the Vue app, and we add the router, and eventually the Vue store, and Apollo. And then we mount it. So that's basically what you do when you usually create a Vue app. But the new thing is we have a server entry. So the server entry should be different because it's on the server, and there's no browser, there's no window, and we need to do more things. Then this is the same as the client. We need to create the app, otherwise you won't go anywhere. And then we need to prefetch all the Apollo queries to render the app in the state after, in the same state as if you already loaded everything. So if you only had the client side of things, you open the app, and then there's loading indicator, for example, and then you get the data back from your GraphQL API. But on the server, it's not possible because we don't want to render those loading indicators. So we need to prefetch everything before rendering the components. And then we finally render the app into HTML, so we can send the HTML back to the client. This is very good for a lot of things like performance and SEO. So that's why I'm talking about it. Prefetching is the main meat of this, because we need to gather the whole, all the GraphQL queries inside your components, and then we have to execute them, and then we have to render the app. So here's how it works. First, I'm creating a fake tree of all the components in the app. So basically calling the render functions everywhere, and basically to to have the whole tree of the app, and then being able to walk it to collect the queries. So we collect them, and then as soon as we have all the queries we need to fetch, well, we execute them, and by executing them, we store the result in the Apollo cache, and then we render the app. Those two last steps, we are overriding fetch policy from Apollo. So we are saying, when we execute queries, we are saying, you need to fetch. So if for example, you've put cache only, it won't work. Also, on the last step, render the app, we are changing it to cache only, because we already fetched all the results. So let's demo this. So I'm going back to Vue CLI. sorry. I'm going to install the Vue CLI plugin SSR to add server-side rendering. OK, installing. So this time there's no configuration for this plugin. It should be much faster. And basically what this plugin is doing for you is converting all your application code to be isomorphic, which means it will be able to run both on the client and the server, and also to, for example, to create a router for each request instead of having a global router. So all of these good practices and work you have to do to get SSR right is being done for you right here. So it should be done anytime. OK, so we got, again, a diff view. And here we got new scripts, new dependencies. The HTML files changed because we need to give more information to Vue, how to render the server side of things. OK, let's skip. I'm just going to lint the files. OK. I'm going to run the Apollo server again. So we got our server running. And here we got a new task for SSR. So I'm going to use SSR serve, which is the Webpack development mode, but using SSR. So it's doing basically two compilations, one for the client and one for the server. And if I open the app, here you go. We got the server-side rendered app with GraphQL. So if you open the source, maybe I can zoom a little bit. You can see here that there's a lot more things that you may find on the ASPA. So for example, Vue is able to automatically render the critical CSS for your app, which means all the rendered components for the current route will have their CSS put inside the HTML to speed up the rendering. So the first paint will be much sooner. And we also have here the HTML with the data, so the A and B messages I just sent, and also the image I uploaded. And at the end of the file, you can see there's the state of the Apollo cache generated for you. So it's then using this to initialize the Apollo cache when the client side starts, so that Apollo isn't executing queries again. So it renders immediately. So if I go back, you can see here it's still an SPA, but you get SSR for free. So if I go to the code, oh, sorry. Is it the right one? No. Yes. You see here that there's the two different entries, the client entry, the server entry, and the main file. So the main file was automatically modified for you to wrap all your application code into create app. So if you remember my little schema from before. So it's creating an app, creating the router, integrating Apollo, and then returning the app. On the client side of things, it's very simple. You just create the app. We also load asynchronous components because Vue supports asynchronous components as well. And we just mount the app on the HTML. So what's going to happen here is Vue is going to hydrate the HTML because you already have the HTML from the server. So Vue doesn't have to do the job again, and it's going just to attach the component instances into the DOM nodes and also attach event listeners and stuff like that. And the entry server is a bit different because it needs to prefetch the Apollo queries. So here's the prefetching. So we provided the app and the root components we will resolve. So for example, here is the home root with the slash. So if I go back to the app, it's the default root, so slash, and there's another root with about. Okay, so depending on the root, you get different components. So you don't need to prefetch the queries from a component which isn't rendered. And then we create the app, we prefetch all the queries. So that's here where I create the fake tree, and then you save the Apollo cache state, and we render the app, and then it gets rendered into HTML. OK, let's go back. Slides, right. So far we got a Vue project, Apollo, SSR, still no terminal, no code required, which is pretty nice, I think. But there is still room for improvement, specifically for SSR. So I'm going to talk about this because I worked on this pretty recently. So the problem is when we create a fake instance tree, we heavily rely on Vue internals, like very ugly things like underscore methods and stuff like that. So it's pretty bad because it can break if Vue internals change. Also, if you want to use third-party libraries, let's say a validation library which modifies the Vue prototype, and then you use this validate in your components, basically you screwed up. You need to mock the plugins to work when we like fake the app tree. And also, faking the app tree is basically another render of the app. There is another way of doing this, which is the way React Apollo is being choosing recently, is doing multiple renders of the app to stabilize and collect and the queries and execute the queries. So basically, when you run your React app with Apollo, you can render the app. You may render the app like 10 times before the server returns the HTML. So that's pretty bad for performance. So the solution is using the Vue server-side render, which is already asynchronous because we support asynchronous components with dynamic imports. And I created a new lifecycle hook in the Vue components, which is SSR prefetch, which is just waiting for a promise to resolve before going on and rendering this specific component, which means there is a new way of doing the prefetching. So first, we let the official server-side renderer do the work of creating the instance, and then we execute the queries. We wait for them before rendering the component, and then we continue with the children. So what that means is we get to use a public API, so no longer breaking as soon as internals change. We support all kinds of libraries as soon as they can run on the server. And we don't do any extra render, so basically you get much better performance. So let's just go back. Oh, no, I was on the right thing. Oh, I lost my mouse. Where's my mouse? Oh, here. OK. So let's go back to the UI and just jump over a project which is already having all of this. So this is currently a work in progress, so not available yet. So I'm going to import a project which uses this already. So if I go ahead and stop this. OK. Oh, yeah, I have the other server still running, but it's fine. You can just like run this here. OK. So if we open the app, we refresh, we got SSR. So it's working. But the most interesting part of this is going to the source code very quickly, using open an editor, right? And then we go to the source, server entry, and this is the file that changed the most. So just to remind you of what was going on for the other one, looked like this. So that's the old one. That's the new one. So basically, you're creating the app, pushing the root to Vue router, letting Vue render the app, and then we just inject the Apollo cache state into HTML. So basically, you have nothing to do for this to work, which is pretty good, I think. OK. That was the last demo. Lots of demos today. So all of this stuff is coming very soon. So basically, we need to release a new version of Vue for this to work. But it's going to come very soon. This is a little notice about my Patreon, because I'm trying to get more time to work on open source projects like the ones you saw. So if you're interested, you can go to patreon.com/Acquiem and support me. I already got a few patrons, so thanks to them. And also my sponsor, which is Vue School. Thanks Vue School. And that's it. So you can find me on Acquiem and github.com/Acquiem. Thank you.